Episode 3, and this week we look at everything around Project Catalyst. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Learn Cardano podcast. This week we're looking into all the different aspects around Project Catalyst, how it came to be, and the research paper that formed the basis of the on-chain governance for the Cardano project. What does that mean? Keep listening in and you'll find out. Now, before we get into anything, I just want to do a little shout out for a couple of people that left ratings and reviews on the iTunes store for the podcast. Now, like I've said before, it really helps with the discoverability of the podcast on the Apple Podcast Network. Unfortunately, all the other podcast networks don't really have a ranking algorithm based on reviews or anything, but Apple does. And it will really help out the show if you did leave a 5-star rating and review. And this one comes from Outdoor Prowess, who left a review a little while back. And it says, Information Age. Happy to discover this podcast. Blockchain technology is launching mankind into the information age, and the Cardano decentralized network is advancing personal sovereignty and security and strengthening communities. That was a nice little 5-star review, so thank you very much. And I have another one here from Yadrola. Anyway, it says, awesome Cardano ADA podcast. Hey Pete, thanks for the detailed, awesome information. Looking forward to hearing more from you about the Cardano and how we as a community can better use ADA to help grow the platform. So thank you so much for those lovely 5-star ratings and reviews. Now, I have enabled comments on the website. So if you had any questions or queries in regards to the show notes that I put up, you can ask them via the comments form on the podcast notes. I have also enabled a little audio feedback feature. So if you want to leave an audio message that could possibly be included on the podcast as well, please go to the contact page and you can use the little audio drop and leave us a message there. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into this week's news. So a few news stories for this week. Firstly, Cardano has released its Plutus Pioneers program. The first course material for it. Now, this is actually available on GitHub, and I've posted links to it in the show notes. So if you're interested in learning how to program smart contracts on Cardano, you can actually get all of that course material week by week and follow along with all of the Plutus pioneers that are developing smart contracts on the Cardano network. Now, I am also one of those programmers that is going through the course and learning the material. I haven't done my homework yet. That's mainly because I'm producing this podcast episode for you guys, but I should be able to get through that tomorrow and get up and running. I did have a little bit of a head start in getting my Plutus Playground development environment working on my Mac, which took forever, but I finally did get it working. But like I said, if you feel like going through the development program as well, you can find it all on GitHub, including the videos that go along with it. It is fantastically presented by Lars. He is a phenomenal wealth of knowledge for Cardano and is a brilliant teacher as well. So I'm really looking forward to going through the next few months in regards to learning more about Plutus and smart contracts on Cardano. Now, in other news, Salad Pool is no more. This is a rather unfortunate story of a stake pool operator who did everything they could to protect their pool, their security, their stake keys, their wallet, seed phrase, everything that they needed to ensure they're secure and backed up. Unfortunately, it was backed up on a hard drive with an encrypted passphrase. So one of those hard drives where it might have a fingerprint scanner or you have to type in a particular key phrase. I believe it was one of those. And it didn't accept the key phrase and apparently wiped the entire contents of the hard drive. This wiped all of the data from the stake pool, all of their wallets, everything around their digital life was completely wiped from that hard drive, which means that pool is completely gone. Everything from the pledge ADA that was on there, I believe it was 145,000 ADA that was on the server itself, along with anything they may have had in their wallets, NFTs, ADA, whatever it is, they're all gone. It's very unfortunate. I did have a look at the metadata around the pool as well, and it looked like there were 2 owners on there. So it's very unfortunate to the both of them to have that all disappear. Now, as the Cardano community, as it is, it's quite nice and supportive. And from what I've seen, there are some efforts in regards to rebuilding the pool and some of the assets and stuff. So it's be interesting to see in a few weeks how that goes and what initiatives were put together to try and rebuild that stake pool. Now, my last story for this week is around the NFT market, and the NFT market on Cardano is absolutely exploding. I swear, every day I look through my Twitter feed and there is another NFT project that has just been launched. I've compiled a list, as many as I could find, around the NFTs that are releasing very soon. You can find that all in the show notes. They range anywhere from Cardano Bits, which were just launched, to Crypto Nitties, Ada Dolls, Cardano Kids, Cardano Gods, which I kind of like the artwork for, the Claymates, animated clay figurines of prominent people within the Cardano community, and much more. It just keeps on going and going, and you can find them all on the show notes for the podcast episode. Now, the last one that I should mention is a really cool tool that someone has put together called nftmaker.io. You can get to it at nft-maker.io, and this is a website service that easily allows you to create an NFT with all the metadata that you need within a few seconds. I saw one of the comments from a Twitter user saying it was easy enough for my 4-year-old to use, and then simply create an NFT out of it. So check that one out. I did hear there were a couple of bugs, but they were sorted out. And see if you can create your own NFT and put it on the Cardano blockchain. This will certainly help with adoption and spur on people using Cardano to create more NFTs and spur on that side of the market. We should see more websites that list Cardano assets, so more of these NFT marketplaces built specifically for Cardano, and hopefully we see more emergence of NFTs that are attached to more physical assets, such as property, which I believe where NFTs can really, really help in regards to digital ownership. Now, if you want any of the links or resources that I've mentioned, you can jump onto our website, cardano.com.au/EP003, and that will take you to the show notes for this podcast episode. All right, so let's get into our main topic, Project Catalyst, all the ins and outs, everything you need to know to participate in Project Catalyst, and how it came about, all of the on-chain governance, and much, much more, right after this break. To understand Cardano's Project Catalyst, I decided to go back to the beginning, back to a research paper done by Bingsheng Zhang, Roman Ilonikov, and Harmant Balangun. And this research paper referenced 48 different articles and papers from other projects, including Ethereum Classic and Dash. And they looked at all sorts of different governance and funding mechanisms in all of these different projects and ideas, and combined it into what they termed as a treasury system for cryptocurrencies, enabling better collaboration and intelligence. Now, this work was presented back in 2019 at the Network and Distributed Systems Security Symposium, and there is a video presentation that is on the show notes. It took a little while to actually find this. It was a lot of clicking through various different sites to find this video, but I eventually got there, and you can watch the presentation, Bingsheng Zhang presenting all the ideas and concepts behind the system. Now, Cardano has gone and taken these ideas and concepts and built Project Catalyst. So Project Catalyst is Cardano's on-chain governance, treasury, and community innovation for the project. So what does this all mean? Well, on-chain governance refers to the ability for users that hold Cardano in their wallets to use that to vote for projects that have been submitted as innovation ideas for Cardano. This is done by registering your wallet for Project Catalyst and then choosing innovation projects which you want to get funded. Now, to be clear, we're just using the balance of your wallet, not the actual ADA to vote. So this balance is recorded and determines your voting power. The more ADA you hold, the more voting power you have. Now, at the time of recording this, the minimum required ADA that you need to hold in your wallet to be able to register and vote is now 500 ADA. And that's for Fund 4 of Project Catalyst. The previous minimum amount was 3,000 ADA, and that was back for Fund 3. Now, we may see changes in those requirements later in the future, but at the moment, you need at least 500 ADA in your wallet to be able to register to vote. Once you have registered to vote, you can actually move that ADA off, sell it, trade it, do whatever you want, restake it. You only need that amount in your wallet at registration. Now, as for the Treasury side of things, this is where it gets quite interesting. Now, I went through and read certain parts of the paper to better understand how it all works. And this is a really good snippet that I picked up as an explanation of what the Treasury system for cryptocurrencies is all about. So Treasury funding perhaps is the most crucial ingredient in a decentralized community-controlled decision-making system. It not only be regular, but also sourced from decentralized means. Now, to better understand why we need this, it's probably good to compare it to another project such as Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin's development and funding comes from the Bitcoin Foundation, a non-profit organization that takes donations from community members, miners, whoever, or even memberships on their website to fund development and continue the growth of Bitcoin itself. Now, if this source of funding dried up, Bitcoin may see development stop. The developers that work on the blockchain Bitcoin may have no incentive to actually work on it themselves. The Bitcoin ecosystem, the miners are the ones that get incentivized. For every block that they produce, they get rewards from producing those blocks. So the miners have a lot of leeway in regards to what happens on the blockchain because they have their income directly affected by changes to the Bitcoin code itself. Back in 2017, we saw the Bitcoin community have a major split, and this all revolved around the scaling issues that we saw with Bitcoin. The adoption was starting to grow, and people wanted to actually trade Bitcoin, use it as a means of cash or a cash replacement, whereas others saw it as a store of value. What was Bitcoin? It really depends who you asked. Now, there was a split in the community, one side of the community wanting larger blocks, and the other wanting it to stay the same with its 1 megabit block size. This led to a fracture in the Bitcoin community. It led to the creation of something called segregated witness, or optimization of that 1 megabit block size. We also saw the hard fork of the project and Bitcoin Cash appear. Now, this was around the time when we started seeing Bitcoin Diamond, Bitcoin Green, Bitcoin whatever, and multiple different versions of Bitcoin appear. And this is when I started losing interest. I could see that all these other projects were leveraging the Bitcoin name and trying to make a bit of a buck out of it. Other companies were appearing in the background, such as Blockstream, who were starting to hire a lot of the Bitcoin developers and not developing on Bitcoin itself, but producing its own sidechain or something that worked bypassing Bitcoin, and they made a product called the Lightning Network, which did transactions on the side and communicated every once in a while to the Bitcoin network itself. Now, in doing so, it bypassed the actual recording of transactions in the Bitcoin blocks, which meant the miners didn't pick up the rewards for mining those blocks, but instead they passed the transactions on a side chain, their Lightning network, and picked up fees for the transactions there and pocketed it for themselves. So there were mixed interests in the community and different actors in it trying to improve Bitcoin and its adoption, but at what cost? So as we can see, due to the lack of governance built into Bitcoin, these problems ensued, and development slowed, and there was no mechanism built in to solve these problems. So here comes Cardano's Treasury system. It looked at how the project would be funded and how future development and ideas would be sourced. Here is a little snippet from Zhang's presentation talking about this.
What's the Treasury Resources? We are mimicking the real world. So in the real world, how do we get money? How our government get money? The first way is print money. For example, if we want to save Greece, we just ask Germany to print enough euros. So this is one way, print money, mint coin, and you can mint coin for the treasury, but it also comes with inflation. You should be used with caution. Another way, taxation, how the governance actually collect money through tax. So the same for the Bitcoin. The same for the blockchain. So we actually collect, say, 10%, 20% from the block rewards. And after a certain period, we gather a lot of money, then we redistribute the money. And also, we can also take in donation. And that's very important because some of the system actually is really based on donation.
So if we look back at Zhang's research paper, it stated that the sources of funding needs to be decentralized. Bitcoin had its centralized source of donations and memberships, whereas what is proposed for Cardano is that sources comes from the taxation of stake pools from their rewards and transaction fees. It also holds newly minted coins and also accepts donations from various different sources. All of this makes up the decentralized sourcing of funds to help fund future projects for Cardano. Now comes the community innovation side of things. Splitting funding into different categories instead of lumping it all into one big fund and having submission proposals from that one funding source. This was to help alleviate issues where projects would be very centric focused. For example, NFTs are very popular at the moment, and if this funding wasn't split into different categories, perhaps the top 10 or 20 projects were all NFT related, and some of the other core fundamental projects that would really help with adoption in various countries or different systems wouldn't get a look at because what was being voted for by the community was what was just popular at that point in time. Splitting it into different challenges, which Cardano has done, ensures that funding is split into different sections and categories so that each of the different aspects of the project that need to be looked at are covered and properly funded. So now that you know and understand how Project Catalyst works and where the idea of the on-chain governance and treasury all comes from, so how do you actually participate in Project Catalyst? Well, at the moment, voting for Fund 4 is about to start, or by the time you hear this podcast, it may have already started. And you can go to the IdeaScale website and have a look at all the different ideas and proposals that have been refined and are ready to be voted upon within Project Catalyst. Voting registration will also open up very soon, and you can use your Daedalus or Yoroi wallet to register for that voting process. You will see an update in the Daedalus wallet in regards to downloading a new version so that you can register your wallet for this process. That is by far the easiest way to get involved, voting on those ideas. Now, like I said, you do require that minimum balance of 500 ADA at this point in time. Like I said, it may change. And then once you've registered your wallet, you'll be needing to download the Catalyst voting app. This app will allow you to, coordinate your wallet address and balance with the voting mechanisms to function with IdeaScale. Now, there is also a way to delegate your vote to a potential expert in the community who can do the voting on your behalf. Now, I actually haven't done this myself, but I have heard of other people talking about it, and this falls into Zhang's research around the Treasury system and being able to delegate your vote to someone else to do the voting on your behalf. This person would be an expert in the field, understand the concepts, and would be an appropriate person to do the voting for you. This is the idea around liquid democracy, not voting on something directly for yourself, especially if you don't understand the concepts. Now, another way to participate is to be an advisor. And now, I haven't looked too deeply into this, but I have discovered the process of becoming an advisor. There is a Telegram channel where you can be onboarded as being an advisor to various projects. Now, the role of an advisor is to provide voters with a thoughtful perspective to help them make an informed decision about which proposals to fund. They're also there to provide proposers with feedback so they can improve their proposals over time. Now, this happens over the different stages of a funding process. At the moment, Fund 5 has actually opened up to proposal submissions and different ideas. These will then be refined and go through different stages before they're voted upon as well. Now, as you can hear, I'm explaining that the voting process for Fund 4 is happening right now, and submissions for Fund 5 are happening right now. So there's this overlap and continuous improvement of these community ideas happening all the time. I'm finding it really hard to keep up. I just voted for Fund 3 ideas, and Fund 4 ideas are now being voted upon, and Fund 5 is starting to accept submission ideas. So you can see this is moving very quickly at a great pace to try and improve the community and the development of Cardano in general. I've worked in other open source communities in the past, and in those communities, you just don't see this type of momentum that is happening in Cardano. The Treasury system really is a huge benefit for this open source community and is really funding and driving the project forward, unlike what I've seen in other open source communities back in the day. Now, like I said, if you want to be a Catalyst community advisor, there is a link to the Telegram channel on the show notes for this podcast episode. You can go to the show notes and click on the link there and get the invite to the Telegram channel. Another way of participating is becoming a referrer, referring someone with the technical skills and vision to propose something for Project Catalyst. Now, this is a little bit harder to get a reward for, but an accepted proposal that makes it through the process will then reflect you as a referrer, and you will get the rewards as being a referrer. Now, finally, the main way that you can participate in Project Catalyst is to actually submit an idea, a proposal for the project itself. Now, there's, like I said, multiple different categories, and there may be particular categories that you resonate really well with and can put forth an idea. Now, when I was going through and doing the research for all this, I was looking at the different categories and the different proposals that were already put in place. One of the categories that I was interested in was dApps and integrations. And while I was going through the different aspects, I thought I'll put in my own proposal. Now, like I said, I used to work in a lot of other open source communities, and as my day job, I'd build and develop a lot of websites for our clients. We'd build a lot of open source e-commerce solutions. So I decided to put in a proposal that worked around WooCommerce and integrating payments for WooCommerce to accept ADA. Looking at some of the other solutions, such as Cardano's integration with Coty Payments, that looked absolutely fantastic, and I actually did want to use that so I could start accepting ADA for my online store. But the minimum requirement to register for a Coty account was 50,000 USD turnover per month. Now, my online store is new, and I make absolutely nothing. So I am actually not a candidate for that particular system, and I will need something else. I could have simply accepted ADA on my website and did the transactions manually, but that is a time sink to actually organize orders, etc. if the store actually became popular and I was only accepting ADA. So I need a automated process to accept ADA from users' wallets, track and trace those deposits into my own deposit wallet, and then trigger particular actions on the WordPress WooCommerce website so that would actually process the orders. So I came up with a brief proposal and idea on how to solve that problem and start allowing smaller vendors in the community that are interested in accepting ADA to actually be able to and power their e-commerce stores that way. So I think that's the best way to actually get involved with Project Catalyst. The benefits are probably the largest in regards to being a participant in the community that way. And I'm looking forward to getting some feedback for Fund 5 on my proposal idea. Now, if I've sparked any sort of interest from this podcast episode in regards to voting, becoming an advisor, referring people towards the project, or even submitting your own idea, please go ahead and do so. It's exciting. It's an absolutely exciting time to do so and be a part of the Cardano community. There are a lot of rewards and funding available to actually participate and actually get something done. I've never been able to work in an open source community like this where funding was so easily available. I'm pretty excited. I hope you are too. And I would love to see you all participating in the next Project Catalyst funding rounds. Now, there are weekly town hall videos that I've done around Project Catalyst. I'll put a couple of links in the show notes so you can find them and listen in what's actually happening. There are other podcasts and blog articles and also YouTube channels that actually break down all of these Project Catalyst submissions as well and look at how they could impact the Cardano ecosystem. So I'll put some links to that as well in the show notes. Now, if you like my idea of building a WooCommerce integration to accept data, I would love to hear your feedback on idea scale. There are comment forms on there. You can comment and tweak my idea, my proposal. I'd love to see what other people think and if other people in the WooCommerce or WordPress communities would like to participate in this idea as well. So that's it for this podcast episode. I know it's lengthy. I went through a lot of detail and history in Bitcoin and how different things work there compared to how things work in Cardano. And I really hope you got something out of this podcast episode. If you did get something out of this, please leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps with the discoverability of this show. And last but not least, we still have that crypto steel capsule competition running at the moment, and it's still up for grabs, and not that many people have entered. Perhaps I've made the entry process just that little bit confusing. Anyway, I'll try and explain it. All you have to do is go to the Cardano AU Twitter account, and there is a pinned post on the account. You can do a quote retweet, which essentially quotes the pinned tweet but lets you add an additional comment to it. In that comment, just let me know why you love Cardano so much. And any of those retweets I'll be collecting, reading out during the show later on, and drawing one of those lucky re-quote tweets, whatever it's called, as the lucky winner of that crypto steel capsule. Maybe if the owners of the salad pool had one of those, they'll be able to actually restore their mnemonic key or seed phrase on their main wallet instead of losing it all on the encrypted hard drive. Maybe I'll send them one. Anyway, that's it for this podcast episode. Until next time, everyone, like I said before, please keep that seed phrase safe and secure. You never know what may happen. Okay, bye.